Should we talk about Jas Athwal?
Yeah.
Do you want to talk about him?
Yeah, sure. So he is the newly elected MP for Ilford South and also Parliament's biggest landlord. And at the end of last week, a BBC investigation revealed that some of his properties were infested with black mould and ants. He's apologised for this, said he was shocked to hear of the reported condition of his properties, adding that they were managed by an agency which did not communicate any problems back to him.
It's not very good, that.
Is it a good excuse?
Well, that's what I mean. They should have let him know, shouldn't they?
Yeah.
Even if he gets a free ride out of that, it says a lot about the rental market and just the property market as a whole, that if the agency were not relaying the information to him...
I was being sarcastic. You were actually following the line.
No. If you take him on his word, his word that they weren't relaying that information back to him, it's insane that an agency doesn't see it important that people are living with mold and rat-infested properties or ant-infested properties, that they don't see it important to turn around to the landlord and say, maybe we need to fork out £100 or £200 to fix this issue. But just like, no, they can live in that. Their lease is running out in 3 months' time. We'll get somebody else to live in the filth for another year.
There's I was talking to someone who works for a housing association about the damp and mould problem in a lot of properties. And they said, you're not allowed to say that homes you're not opening your windows properly anymore. Private landlords will still say it, but housing associations can't say that anymore. They can't accuse you of not opening your windows, which I think is good. If there is a chronic mould problem, it's probably not going to be solved by opening a single pane window.
Because you're drying one T-shirt in a room.
Obviously, there are exceptions to the rule, right? You know, if you are literally running like a laundry service.
Yeah, well, it was the big difficulty when I turned my flat into a sauna. That we did get mold very quickly after that. But they never said to us that you should open the windows or you should stop making
But that would have hurt
sauna.
the sauna, wouldn't it?
Well, the business would have fallen completely under if they told me to start opepening the windows.
Are you living in a live work, are you?
Well, yeah, you have to, in this economy. Come on.
There is also the housing association spend a hell of a lot of money on mould washes. So they essentially just send someone round to wash the mould off of the walls. That doesn't feel like an effective use of money. That's probably like that to me sounds like real snake oil salesman. Like you charge a hell of a lot of money for this apparently professional mould washing job. And I doubt they're going around there probably with a bit of bleach and a rag and they're just like, there we go.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's so much more structural than that, because it's on old buildings, the wall where the walls join in the exterior, they'll just start letting damp in.
Okay. Right.
So if you look at the blueprints of a council house that was built in the 1960s.
Didn't realise that we'd invited Barrett home or something.
But it's also interesting as well, because something that I didn't really realise before I became a renter in London was about whose responsibility different things in your houses are and in your house is, and how the council and the landlord can effectively pass responsibility back and forth for a really long time and nothing gets fixed, as in the council's responsible for exterior walls and your window frames but not your window panels. That's the landlord. So then it goes it feels like no one's really taking responsibility, and meanwhile you're living in a house with damp and mold and trying to figure out who on earth should be in charge of it.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like in this instance, Jas Athwal is definitely the person responsible.
Yeah.
Well, no, you can't say that.
Huh?
Can't say that.
I didn't say that.
He's shocked and appalled. He's shocked and appalled.
Yeah. But he, as the landlord, is still responsible.
Do you ever sometimes make such a ginormous mess in the kitchen when you're cooking, and then you eat dinner and then come back, and then you're like, who did this? That's what this.
You send a picture into the flat group chat. Which one of you didn't clean up?
And it's just me. It's myself.
Somebody can get the blame for this. That isn't me. I spent months building narratives around all of my other tenants, all of my other flatmates.
Oh yeah?
Yeah.
You're
I live with 10 tenants of a house that I live in. Yeah.
Do you think that being a landlord with 15 properties or more, having these massive portfolios, do you think that should be a full-time job? And do you think if it was viewed that way rather than as a kind of side hustle pension, that we wouldn't have as many problems.
Do you mean if it was a full-time job, then perhaps Jas Athwal might have been able to notice the black mold and the ant infestation?
Yes.
Well, what if he was working from home? From his home?
From his home.
Presumably, if he'd been working from that home, he would have noticed it.
Yeah.
It would be a requirement, of course, in this hypothetical, that if you were a landlord full-time, you have to work in each property that you rent for some period of time. So Monday here, Tuesday here,
What to
Wednesday
get?
here.
What? Like,
Just to get a flavour of the place that you're renting out
flavour?
to someone, licking the mould off the walls.
a lot of people are okay. Let's just talk about London for 1 second, because we're running out of time, because I have to go, and also because that's where we all live. All right. So all of those like other city nonsense, like just like calm down for a minute. We're just going to talk about London. Have you ever felt that you might have to move out of London because of the extortionate price of renting?
Yeah, or it feels like a very short-term thing to live here.
What about you?
Yeah, absolutely. You can't expect to spend 60 to what's the average people spend? 45% of their monthly wage on rent.
I don't buy that for 1 second.
Yeah.
I'm sure it's more than that.
There's never been a point that I've paid more than or less than 50%.
Yeah.
on my
I've
rent.
never paid 50% more. Good for fucking you. Like,
But
okay.
I mean, like, it's not realistic to expect people to be spending half their wage or more on living. Or not even living, just a roof over their head, before bills, before council tax, before food, and then think that living in that city is a permanent option for them. You can't afford to
Can't save
money for a deposit. And even if you do save money for a deposit, the price of housing in general is just so unattainable for the average person that if you were to get a mortgage, you're going to be paying it well into your retirement age, or your children are going to be paying it as well.
That's what no one's ever, you said deposit. I know you didn't mean this one, but the rental deposit, no one's actually talked about, because rent has gone up so much. Like, you're looking at like £950 for a room in London at the moment. And don't come on here and don't comment saying, I've seen rooms for £550. Shut up. Okay?
We're not talking about those rooms.
It is totally reasonable for people who live and work every day in central London to want to live in zone 2. That is perfectly reasonable. Now that we've got that out of the way, £950 for a room, you probably have to put down a deposit of £1,050, right? Who has, like, if you're fresh into London, who has £1,000 spare to give to an agency?